Shabbat Shalom. We're beginning the third parasha of the book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis, today. The name of the parasha is Lecha. It's a famous passage, one that resonates very, very deeply with so very many people because there's so many confluences between this parasha and your life, my life, everyone, universally, our lives. So what do we begin with? We begin with the end. And the end is the story of Noah, for whom we are told, Tzaddik B'doratav, that Noah, because he was such a tzaddik in his time and his generations, that God decided that he was going to be the new progenitor of the human race, the one family that was saved out of all the families of the world. But when we come to this Torah portion, Lecha, we have no such description of Abram. He's not called the tzaddik, not called tzaddik b'doratav, not called a righteous man of any ways. All we have, without any background information at all, is Lecha. Get yourself up, Abram, out of your homeland and travel to a destination that for you is undefined. So 2 issues I'd like to bring up with you today. One of them is, why is it that the Torah does not define Abram as being worthy, like he defined Noah as being such a worthy individual, describing him as a tzaddik? Doesn't get much higher than that. Here with the story of Abram, there's an assumption. The assumption is that we don't need a description of him because he, besides of course stemming from the line of Noah, stemming from the son of Shem throughout 10 generations that have passed, already has those attributes. We don't need to describe him as being a tzaddik. And furthermore, we don't need that description because also he's responsive to the call. He hears God call him, go, get up from the place that is familiar to you, from the land, from your family, from everything that you know to be sound and firm, and go to a place where you know nothing. With that command, Abram simply packs his bags, gets his family going, and moves to the land of Canaan when God says, this is where you're going to stay. That's a very powerful leap of faith that Abram takes. And therefore, perhaps, the Bible, the Torah, does not need to describe him as a tzaddik because we already know him as a tzaddik. Who else but a tzaddik would do such a thing? I mean, as opposed to Noah, who said, build a boat and save yourself because the world is going to have a deluge and everyone's going to die except you. Well, not much of a choice there. Let me build the boat. But Abram, on the other hand, there is no downside. There is no dark side. There is no curse. There is no warning of an impending doom. Rather, he's just told, go leave. That's the first defining characteristic of Noah, which is outstanding. The second one, which is more applicable to your life and my life, is the idea of change. Change is hard. Change is hard for everyone. Children, not so much. Children are very malleable. They're flexible. They learn. They're absorbing from every experience that's given to them. But as we age, as we get older, we grow more rigid, more firm, not only in our bones, but more importantly in our mind. We grow less flexible, less malleable, less capable of doing mental gymnastics and making changes in our life. Abraham is no longer a spring chicken in his life, and yet he responds with alacrity to the call of God. And this is where the confluence of our lives and his life really hits the road and needs some serious, significant thought. You are the inheritor of the great tradition that began with Abram and stemmed down throughout the generations, through all the patriarchs and the matriarchs, and all the great kings and the warriors and the prophets throughout, and the rabbis throughout all of time. You are the inheritor of that tradition. The reason why you're Jewish is because they fed your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, an understanding of what God was in the world. And because of that understanding, you have within you tremendous power to be able to morph, to be able to grow, to be able to change, to be able to absorb. Did you know that one of the phrases in the Talmud is Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam? There are many mitzvahs that we can observe, right? The mitzvah of tzedakah, many people are very good with that mitzvah. There's people who are very good with the mitzvah of tefillah. They pray. There are many people who are good with the mitzvah of just hachnasat orchim, welcoming people into their home, into their life. But those are single mitzvahs. But learning Torah surpasses them all, says this passage. Why would learning Torah surpass them all? Because when we are willing to learn, when we're 40, when we're 30, when we're 50, when we're 70, when we're willing to learn things that we do not know, we're willing to change. That is the greatest indicator of our ability to be able to be flexible even in our old age, which is what we sing, by the way, whenever we sing that Psalm of Shabbat. Tzaddik katama yifrach, a tzaddik, even in his old age, shall continue to bear fruit. I wish the same for you. Pick up a good book, get online and start learning. Learn with us on Wednesday evenings. I offer a class every Wednesday afternoon in ancient texts. Every Saturday afternoon we learn also ancient texts, Talmud, Midrash, Kabbalah. We learn lots of different things, but there are myriad opportunities to be able to learn. Learn, grow, and become malleable. Flex your mental muscles just like Abraham did.